Hey folks, here at OS Reviews, you're watching our video first look and a quick review of a fairly low-cost dedicated smartwatch. By dedicated, I mean that it has a SIM card slot on the back, so it's more like a cell phone watch than something that runs on Android, but it has the ability to place phone calls by itself. Obviously, you can still link it up to a phone and sync data as a companion tool, but it can be used without that function if you just want to use it as a cell phone backup in many ways. So that's kind of interesting. The design of this watch reminds me a lot of something like the first generation Apple Watch. In fact, it is a slightly more expensive version of the SW08, which we reviewed about a year and a half ago. It has a few more tricks and a few more updated software elements. But first, in terms of packaging contents, we get access to the charging cable, and this is one of the first differences immediately. Whereas the previous SW08 used a regular micro USB charger, this one has a magnetic kind of a contact pen based design where you simply pop it on the back for the charging to start. It's a bit more elegant, but it also means you can't lose this cable. There's also a screwdriver for accessing kind of the back panel, an extra screen protector, and again, you can use this to kind of swap out some of the parts if they get worn. Finally, there is the user manual, which is fairly well documented if you want to quickly glance at some of the features. Taking a look at the design of the watch first, again, it does remind me a lot of the Apple Watch from the appearance. It has a 2.5D curved screen, so it has a slight kind of curve to the edges that makes swiping between panels feel a bit more elegant. The side here is where the camera lens is housed. Obviously, the real Apple Watch does not have a camera, but this is one of the benefits of a lot of these clones or similar models from China, is that they give you an actual camera to work with. It's kind of useful actually for capturing the occasional shot, using it as a wearable camera of sorts. However, you do need to have a micro SD card installed because there is no onboard storage immediately. There's a simple power key on the side. On the back, there's an additional surprise. This model has an optical heart rate sensor, so you can use it as a pretty good fitness tracker for getting occasional, continuous heart rate data in addition to steps, calories burned, sleep tracking, things like that. What's also interesting is the texture here. They're using kind of a synthetic leather. It's not real leather, but it has an interesting pattern. You can unlock the 4 screws on the edges to access the SIM card slot. It uses a nano SIM, but it's a quad-band GSM unlocked device, so you can simply pop in an AT&T or T-Mobile SIM card and make phone calls as well as receive text messages. Speaker is located on the side. It's a mono speaker, but it works. And the overall construction of the watch is made out of aluminum, so it actually feels a lot more expensive than the price would suggest. The band itself is not replaceable, but it is fairly thick and durable. It's comfortable enough to wear. And the screen on the front here also uses an LCD IPS display, so as a result, the viewing angles are actually quite wide and generous. So there are no real surprises as far as navigation is concerned. There's an oversized clock, and from here we can easily tap to start dialing a number. Swiping from the edge over takes me back to the main screen. I can also take a look at my messages, and I can even write a message or compose one. From here, you can bring up a virtual T9 style layout for the keyboard, and I found that the touchscreen itself actually to be quite responsive. It does have predictive text, as you can see here, which significantly helps the experience, and it's not as bad as you would think typing out letters and numbers. What's also interesting about this particular watch is the aspect ratio. It's not quite as stretched or long as the Apple Watch and the SW08. It's a bit more square and boxy, so as a result, you do get slightly more surface area to work with, which can be an attractive element in itself. The main menu is displayed in this carousel-like view. You kind of have to guess what they do because there are so many of those, but that is one of the concerns we highlighted previously. From here, we have basic utility programs like a calendar, which is actually featuring a fairly attractive user interface that allows me to cycle through various dates and look at appointments if I have any, and I can also swipe back here. Finally, I can look at my contacts, my Bluetooth connection status. I can tap on this QR code for the pairing process to start on my phone. After downloading the companion app, you can scan this QR code to register it very quickly. Finally, I can tap on the calculator, and you can see this is what the interface looks like. Very simple. On the top here, you can also take a look at very simple, kind of stopwatch functionalities. I can also take a look at various clock types. So this changes the main clock on the first page. So if you want to play around with different types of designs, it's perfectly possible to do that. I believe this runs on a MediaTek-based proprietary watch OS. We've seen this a few times now. So it is a simple smartwatch OS that isn't completely proprietary, and there is a bit of built-in memory to it as well, which allows for potential updates to happen. So let's say I like one of the analog ones and I want to change it to this. You can see that overall the animations are actually quite smooth and responsive. Because it does have a nice overall IPS panel, you can see that saturation between the colors and the deep blacks makes it actually seem quite nice looking. So overall this is, again, a pretty attractive way to kind of customize the watch. There's also other gestures that I can play around with. So for instance, I can flip it to mute an incoming call. I can also wake it up by flicking my wrist. So these are all things that are done using the accelerometer that the watch allows you to set up and to program. A few more things. This is a remote capture app, so it allows me to capture an image after connected to an Android or iOS device. If I want to access the own built-in camera, I can do that by tapping on the separate kind of camera icon. And from here, you can see that the quality is actually not bad at all. It's actually quite sharp looking, and for something that's placed on the side, it's not quite as awkward as you would think actually to capture something just by twisting your arm a little bit, and you can easily capture a shot. But again, you do have to insert a memory card to use this functionality. Finally, there's also a basic media player for playing back MP3 songs. MP4 videos can also be played back on this without too many problems. A file manager as well, and there's also the heart rate sensor. Additional features include voice search recognition. There is a built-in microphone, again, since it is a cell phone watch. But once you're connected to your Android or iOS device, you can actually use this to search up Siri or a digital AI assistant, which is kind of cool. Furthermore, there's also the ability to record voice memos directly on the unit with the built-in memory. So that's also a nice feature. The microphone is a little tinny sounding, but it does work for some quick meeting or lecture notes that you want to record. And again, it's a nice feature that is added onto this from the previous generation models. That's more or less it for this basic smartwatch. When taken in isolation, is it the best fitness tracker? Is it the best companion device for your phone? I would say no. But you have to keep in mind that the price is really low, and for its long list of features, including the ability to place dedicated phone calls as a cell phone, it does have a lot to offer. Compared to the previous SW08, this is definitely a better product just because they've had more time to refine it. The overall animations definitely feels more responsive when you're navigating around through the interface. Furthermore, I feel like the overall build has improved. It has the optical heart rate sensor, it has a magnetic charging system, which is better and easier to use, and furthermore, it makes it potentially more element resistant. So although this isn't a fully waterproof watch, you can definitely take it with you, when you're jogging and exercising. It's sweat-proof, it is light rain-proof, so no worries about all those things. So this is definitely an improvement compared to the previous generation model. It still isn't perfect, it's still not the most advanced watch, it doesn't give you, web browsing capabilities, but for everything that it can do, it actually handles it quite well. I still think there's a bit of work that can be done with the app selection, as well as how the menu is laid out. I think it can be a little bit confusing at times. Furthermore, I do think that the fact that they separate a lot of these features just to make it seem like there's more apps isn't, the best thing in the world, because the pedometer app and the sleep tracking app can really be integrated into one icon, but they are separating them, so that is a little confusing for first-time users. But with that being said, everything is actually quite fluid, it's quite responsive, you can change the watch face, and again, it's a fraction of the cost of an actual Apple Watch, although it doesn't do nearly as much as a backup cell phone and as a quick basic companion tool which shows notifications from your phone. This actually does a very reasonable job for the price. You can check out more details about this in our official written review, and for the most part, there are many elements that are borrowed from the software with the previous SW08. So if you're curious, you can also check out our review of that, because not that much has really changed from the software. But thanks for watching here at OS Reviews.